Hey guys, it's Tori. Welcome to my channel, or welcome if you're new. I get a lot of DMs asking questions about sublimation and my sublimation toaster ovens. Can you use this model? Can you use that model? What I wanted to do is kind of do a video on kind of everything that you need to know about sublimating, what products you need to use. So I'm gonna just give you all the information and answer all your questions. When people say that they are sublimating with a toaster oven, it's easier to say toaster oven than to say a convection toaster oven. It has to be a convection toaster oven in order to sublimate. That is number one. Number two is when you use a convection toaster oven, when you're looking to buy one, or you're not sure if you want to get into sublimating but you want to try it out, or you're just not going to sublimate a lot but you want to try it. It can be pretty expensive to go ahead and just buy a convection toaster oven. And once you sublimate in a convection toaster oven, it's also good to know that you can only sublimate in there going forward. You cannot sublimate in a toaster oven and then use food in the toaster oven. You can do it backwards. If you already have one and you're getting a new one and you've used it for food, then you can transition it and use it for sublimating, but you must keep it as sublimating. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to tell you what I did, because I wanted to get into sublimating with tumblers and mugs and that kind of stuff, but honestly I didn't know if I would enjoy it. And I didn't want to spend a lot of money and then not, continue doing it. So I happened to be like at a thrift store, like a Goodwill, and they have a lot of toaster ovens, TVs, all that kind of stuff. So what I did was I looked at the toaster ovens that they had. I knew it had to be a convection toaster oven. So I'm going to walk you through those steps on what I did to kind of help you guys. So I put out both of my convection toaster ovens. I actually started with the small one, and it was $4.99. Can you believe that? This is the small one. This is the bigger one. I ended up liking sublimating a lot, and so I wanted it to be bigger. I went back to the thrift store, and I want to say I paid $29 for this one. I don't really remember. I mentioned it in a video, but I know that is an amazing deal. So what I'm going to do is show you a little bit about both of them, how you use them, and how you can find out if whatever you have is a convection toaster oven. When using a convection toaster oven for sublimation, the key difference lies in the way the heat is distributed. Convection ovens have a fan that circulates hot air throughout the oven, ensuring even and consistent heating. This is particularly important for sublimation processes where you want to apply uniform heat to the material. In a regular toaster oven without convection, heat is typically generated from the top and or the bottom of the heating elements. While this setup is suitable for many cooking tasks, it may not provide the same level of even heating as a convection oven. The convection fan in a convection toaster oven often helps distribute the heat more evenly, making it a better choice for tasks that require precise and consistent temperature control, such as sublimation. Let's start with this one. This is actually a Black & Decker. This one does not say convection on it, okay? So it says the dial is warm, broil, bake, and toast. I know my newer one says convection, so that's pretty easy. If it says convection, it's a convection toaster oven. But this one did not. What I did is I turned it around, and sometimes it's on the back, sometimes it's on the bottom. So let's look on the bottom. Let me turn it the other way so you can see it better. So what I did was I typed in Google when I was at the thrift store. I typed in model number, and then here's the model number, and then that model number, and then I typed in Black & Decker because it's a Black & Decker. Usually you'll pull it up, and depending on how old it is, maybe it's still on Amazon, and it will tell you when you read the specs on it or in the descriptions, it'll say this is a convection toaster oven. This was my first one, and I paid $4.99 for it, and that's how you know. So when you're at the thrift store or Goodwill or whatever, you just want to search that way. It may take a few minutes, but then you know if it's convection. It has to be convection in order to sublimate. Just because you have a toaster oven, if it's not a convection, it's not going to sublimate. Okay, so here is one of the tumblers that I actually sublimated. I'm not going to sublimate in this video. I have a lot of videos walking you through step by step how to sublimate. I'll be happy to put some of those in the descriptions below. This one I'm just solely going to talk about the process of sublimation and how to find the toaster oven that's meant for you and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, with this one, you always need to, number one, put parchment paper down, because when you sublimate on a tumbler, you're going to wrap it with sublimation paper, and that sublimation paper has to be printed on a sublimation printer with sublimation ink. Everything has to be meant for sublimation. So you'll wrap it. Once you've printed it on your sublimation printer, you'll wrap it, and then you always wrap it with a sublimation shrink wrap. That's the one, if you see in my videos, I'll use the heat gun and then it tightens. It's just the shrink wrap. It tightens really tight. And what that does is it's pressing the sublimation paper firmly onto the tumbler, because you want it to stay on there and not move, and you want it to be pressed as firmly as possible because you want that ink to come onto the tumbler. So if it's not pressed and firmly against it, it may turn out really nice on one side, but the side that was not pressed firmly on, that ink is not going to get onto the tumbler. When I place this in here, it doesn't go all the way back, okay? See, it doesn't go all the way back. So with this tumbler, I was able to just place that just like that in there. So I could only do one tumbler at a time. Then there's the mug. So if same process, wrap it, shrink wrap, all that, and again, lay parchment paper. So this one I had to do like this, and that's as far as it would go because it would hit, remember that top that I showed you. So with this one, remember this one does not say convection. I would just put this on bake, and then I would put this knob and I would put it at 400 because that is the temperature that I would sublimate for a convection toaster oven. I know with a tumbler, I have sublimated with a tumbler press, and off the top of my head, I don't remember the exact temperature. I want to say it was like 360 or something like that. You actually do different temperatures because the heat distributes differently. 400 is what I've always used for any convection toaster oven that I've used. And you also want to make sure that whenever you sublimate, I always preheat the toaster oven for 15 minutes. So you'll want to turn it on and set your timer. Make sure that this heats for 15 minutes. And I think the reason behind that is that gives it enough time to make sure that it is the temperature of 400. And I'm sure there's more reasons behind there. That is one that I just kind of think maybe one of the important things. But I always did 15 minutes. Sometimes when you sublimate, a lot of people will say that there's burnt. I have not had any issues, and I've never had that happen. So the only thing that I can say with that is maybe what you're using is not sublimation paper, because you have to use sublimation paper. And I know sometimes if you shop on Amazon like I do, so many times this has happened, I may type in sublimation paper and paper pops up. And I think, oh, okay, this one's sublimation paper. I don't pay attention to the word sublimation anymore. I've done that several times, and I've ordered something, and then I'm like, okay, this doesn't work. I go back to my order and I realize it's not sublimation paper, it's just paper. So just pay attention to that kind of stuff if you guys shop like I do, where, you know, that's happened to me several times just with different items. I just don't pay attention. I type in what I want, and I think the first thing that pops up is that thing, and it's not always like that. Make sure that you pay attention that it's sublimation paper. I have a printer. I use an Epson ET2720 printer. I bought it brand new, and at that time, I think it was like under $200. And what I did was I took the ink out, and I bought Sublimation ink, and I converted that printer into a sublimation printer. So you cannot go back and forth. You have to pick one. So if you have Sublimate, let's say you have used that printer, you have that printer or a printer, and let's say you have used that several times. I don't know, you've used it for the last year just printing color paper, you know, color pictures. Yes, you can convert it to the sublimation printer. But once you convert it, I would let it run a few times, you know, like print the ink just to make sure that all that ink is out that may be stuck in there. Then you can convert it to a sublimation printer, but you need to stick with sublimation. You can't go back and forth. Just a little FYI on that. So for sublimation, you use the sublimation paper. You print it on your sublimation printer with sublimation ink. And then you will wrap the sublimation paper around the tumbler. And again, I have tons of videos that'll walk you through step by step. The other thing that I do is I always make sure to tape it. When you do the sublimation paper and you're placing it on here, you want it to stay flat against here as much as you can. So when I wrap it, I pull it really tight, and then I use the sublimation or the heat resistant tape, and I tape it. If you see any of my videos, I use a lot of tape. The reason being is because it needs to all stay firmly against the tumbler. I know there's a lot of other people that do videos and maybe they do or they don't, but I know what works for me. And I rather spend a little extra on tape, this heat resistant tape, and do a really good job and have my tumbler turn out than to kind of not do a good job with the tape and maybe miss certain parts, and so certain areas don't have the ink, and damage a tumbler, because the tumblers and the mugs are a lot more expensive than the tape. That's just kind of my thought on that. Let's move on to the next convection toaster oven that I bought. So this one I also bought like at a Goodwill, and this one is Oster by Oster. And this one actually, because I wanted something bigger so I could sublimate more than, you know, one tumbler. So this one actually says broil, warm, toast, convection, bake. So this one I did not have to look up to see if this was a convection toaster oven because it said convection, bake. So C-O-N-V, bake. So the C-O-N-V stands for convection. This is one that I knew was a convection, so I just bought this one. Then the knob here, you just turn it, you put it on the 400, and then this is not plugged in, but then I would turn this and a timer would go, and I would also preheat for 15 minutes. Same thing, if this did not say convection, you would just pick up the toaster oven and look for something, okay, like on here on the bottom, there's nothing. Whereas on the other one, it was on the bottom. So let me turn this around. So this one, let's see, right over here. This one right here tells you that this is an Oster, and this model number is right here. It says model, and then it has the model number. So, and it says toaster oven on the back, because I think that's just a term that people use loosely, that it's a toaster oven. But this one is a convection toaster oven, and I don't think it has to say it there because it does say it in the manual, and it did say it on the front, said convection bake. This one, you'll open it. So they have two little bars. These get very, very, very hot. And this has the fans on the side. So again, I think that's the big difference with convection toaster oven, is a lot of times it has a heating element up here, which this is also a heating element. It gets very hot. And it also has fans. You would place the parchment paper in here, and this one was nice because this one went way back, just like that. And this one I liked because it was a lot bigger. I could probably put I know I can put 3. I could probably put 4, I'm not really sure. So I like that. And I could also, let's say I did 2 of those. I could push this way back. I could do, I don't know, 2 mugs and maybe 2 of these. So I liked this because I could do a lot more. So I kind of upgraded and got the bigger one. So yes, here, this has this that comes out. And I know that some people have mentioned, you know, why don't you just have it stand up in the back like that, okay? Yeah, you could do that. Definitely you could do that. It made me nervous to do that because I, again, put parchment paper down, and I was just so scared that parchment paper would kind of flip up, touch the heating element, and I don't know, catch on fire. So if you're standing there and you're watching it, I mean, you guys do you do what you want. That's the only reason I didn't do it this way. That just made me nervous. Let me also show you the paper that I use. So this is Hippo, H-I-I-P-O-O, Sublimation paper. So this is the paper that I use, and it has, it's all in there, you know. And this is also another one that I use. It just depends on what size paper I need. This is actually Printer Jacks, and this is Sublimation paper. So these have to say Sublimation on there. I use both of these papers for any type of sublimation, pretty much any type of sublimation I do, whether it is a shirt or a mug, a tumbler, an ornament, you know, pretty much whatever. But you do have to pay attention to when you do shirts. Like this sublimation paper says, this works with light colored polyester fabrics and polyester coated items. So you just have to pay attention to the detail when sublimating with t-shirts, because some of the sublimation papers for light color and some is for dark color. And then let me show you something else. So again, I said that I had an Epson ET 2700 that I converted to a sublimation printer. This is actually the ink that I use, and this is a refill box. This is Hippo, H-I-I-P-O-O Sublimation ink. What I like about this for my specific Epson is mine has this type of tool mechanism that you turn upside down. You put this in, it fits in like a key, and then that's how you fill that ink cartridge. So that's why I really like these a lot, because otherwise it's super messy. But so anyway, I used these. I hope that I answered everyone's questions, because I know I do get a lot, and I know you guys are so excited to sublimate and you have so many wonderful questions. So I'm just trying to prepare some type of, I hope this tutorial is something that kind of answers a lot of your questions. And if you guys ever have any questions, I love to help you guys. That's what I'm here for. So always feel free to send me a message in the comments, or if you even want to send me a quick email, my email is always in the descriptions. Sometimes it's actually easier to maybe just send me a direct, do a comment, because I may see that earlier than I would with the email. Anyway, guys, I hope I helped you, and I will see you guys in the next video. Comment below, let me know as well if I did help you guys. Is this the type of video that you guys like? Do you have more questions that you want me to answer? And that's it, guys. So bye, you guys. Thanks for watching.